kepada Allah semua kan berakhir, waktu dan dunia hanyalah miliknya, suka dan duka bagai nyanyian yang mengiringi setiap langkah kita. Allahu Rabbi yang maha pengasih, yang memberi rezeki setiap insan. Allahu Rabbi yang maha penyayang, akan memaafkan setiap kekilafan. Gelap dan hilang, cahayamu menerawang, mendung berlayar, angin yang menghantarkan, semua karena kehendak saya, semua karena kasih dan sayangnya, semua karena rahmatnya. Kepada Allah semua kan berakhir, waktu dan dunia hanyalah miliknya, suka dan duka bagai nyanyian yang mengiringi setiap langkah kita. Teranglah hati, teranglah jiwa, teranglah hidup dengan rahmatnya, kan diberikan segala artinya, memuji hati dengan perlawanan. Teranglah hati, teranglah jiwa, teranglah hidup dengan rahmatnya, kan diberikan segala
ما حاوله الإسلام نجح في أنه يخرج العرب من الجزيرة العربية إلى العالم الواسع، فاتصلوا بحضارات هذا العالم الواسع. اتصلوا باليونان، واتصلوا بالهند، واتصلوا بالفرس، واتصلوا بالمصريين، اتصلوا تقريبا بكل حضارات العالم القديم، واستوعبوا تراث كل هذه الحضارات وتمثلوه وامتلكوه. أستطيع أن أقول أيضا امتلكوه، ونجحوا عبر هذا الامتلاك في بناء حضارة عظيمة. استمرت هذه الحضارة على مدى قرون، استمرت لأكثر من 5 أو 6 قرون. استمرت حضارة زاهرة أصبح معها العرب أقرب ما يكون إلى معلمي العالم وحاملي وحفظة العلم العالمي كله. العرب بالفعل لعبوا دورا مهما في حفظ كل التراث القديم، وفي الحقيقة أحيانا أتساءل لو لم يكن العرب قد فعلوا ذلك ما الذي كان يمكن أن تكون عليه الإنسانية إذا ضاع منها كل هذا التراث الذي حفظه العرب لهم.
As destiny would have it, the Byzantine and Persian empires had bled one another to exhaustion during a bitter, decades-long war that preceded the mission of the prophet and ended shortly before his death in 632 with the financial and military enfeeblement of both empires. In the months following the prophet's death, his companion and successor, the first caliph, Abu Bakr, consolidated Islam's political dominance within the Arabian Peninsula. Assisted by a number of tribes that remained loyal to the new religion, Abu Bakr orchestrated a series of well-planned military campaigns against rebellious tribes which became known as the Apostasy Wars. Within a year, all resistance had been subdued, and the armies of the Caliphate launched a number of expeditions that, in less than 2 decades, conquered the Levant, Egypt, modern-day Iraq, and much of the former Persian Empire. During this era of rapid expansion, Muslim armies generally offered their opponents 3 choices: conversion to Islam, submission and payment of tribute, or death. Many Christians in Syria, Egypt, and Iraq, who did not embrace the official theology of the Eastern Orthodox Church or Zoroastrianism, may have viewed the early Muslims as liberators after having suffered intense persecution for many years under their previous rulers. Muslim historians themselves generally attribute the rapid collapse of Byzantine and Sasanian resistance to the early Muslims' piety and as an indication of divine favor. Yet the remarkable unity of the Arab tribes, animated by their embrace of Islam and their focus upon a common enemy, quickly dissolved in the wake of these early conquests. Claims of injustice and the inequitable distribution of spoils led to intra-religious violence in 656, when rebellious factions from Egypt, Iraq, and Medina slaughtered the 3rd Caliph, Uthman, as he sat reading the Quran. This launched the first fitna, or civil war, pitting Muslims against Muslims. Over the next 5 years, many of the Prophet's companions massacred one another in battle, or surreptitiously, through poisoning and other forms of assassination. While some undoubtedly perished in the hope of rescuing Islam from the hands of opportunists, others withdrew from conflict and sought to preserve and perpetuate the spiritual teachings of Islam as conveyed by the Prophet Muhammad. The murder of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet's son-in-law and 4th Caliph in 661, paved the way for establishment of the Umayyad dynasty by Muawiyah, the son of Hind and Abu Sufyan, Meccan polytheists who, prior to their conversion to Islam, had sought to exterminate Muhammad and his followers and eradicate his teachings, which had threatened to destroy the Jahiliyyah institutions that buttressed the power and prosperity of the old Meccan elite. To judge by the events of the First Civil War and the subsequent Umayyad and Abbasid dynasties, the Jahiliyyah characteristics of Arab populations had not been fully extinguished with their acceptance of Islam, but merely assumed a new configuration and appearance. The mentality that lay behind the former idol worship resumed full force, rendered all the more insidious by the fact that while many Muslims continued to relentlessly pursue the fulfillment of their egotistical passions, they now did so in the guise of serving the one true God, rather than by prostrating themselves before statues made of stone, wood, or clay.
Itu yang saya sebut arogansi yang mendekati syirik. Orang yang merasa dia paling mutlak benar dan kemudian orang lain itu jahanam, keliru semua. Itu menurut saya sudah syirik. Dia lebih syirik daripada ziarah kubur yang dikatakan syirik itu. Itu syirik. Karena yang mutlak benar itu hanya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Kita tidak ada yang mempunyai hak memutlakkan diri. Anda boleh menafsirkan Al-Quran, tetapi Anda tidak boleh mengatakan bahwa tafsiran Anda lah yang paling benar.
This tendency was already visible during the Prophet's lifetime, as revealed by chapter 49, verse 14 of the Quran, which states, The Bedouins say, "We have attained a faith." Say unto them, O Muhammad, you have not yet attained a faith. You should rather say, we have outwardly surrendered, for true faith has not yet entered your hearts. Like countless others in the long course of history that leads to the present day, those addressed by this verse proclaim themselves to be true Muslims, when in reality, they failed to grasp the profound spiritual teachings conveyed by the Prophet Muhammad. As the Quran and Sunnah clearly state, the Prophet's sole purpose was to ennoble humanity by awakening individuals to a state of complete self-transcendence in which one may experience, moment by moment, awareness of and surrender to God. The Umayyads' monopoly of political and military authority provided them with the ability to control religious institutions as God's representatives on earth, and to dictate the official interpretation of religion itself. In the case of Muawiyah and many of his successors, this entailed positioning the Quran as an extension of their political authority to subjugate the human mind. To further cement their authority, the Umayyads cleverly positioned any questioning or rejection of their highly politicized approach as a blasphemous rejection of the Quran itself, rather than as the pious refutation of a specific human relationship with the Quran derived from an authoritarian mindset. This devious trick, still recycled 14 centuries after the civil war between Sayyidina Ali and the Umayyads, is the extremists and opportunists' weapon of choice, which they employ to attack anyone who proclaims the necessity of emancipating Muslims from the false authority of a politicized understanding of the Quran. A diamond in the hands of a murderous thief is no less a diamond. But if that thief hides the diamond from view while defining and proclaiming its alleged characteristics to an ignorant public, knowledge of the diamond will naturally recede from public awareness, as many embrace a partial and deluded understanding of its nature. For nearly 14 centuries, this has been the fate, not only of Muslim societies, but of Islamic thought in general. As the original unity of Muhammad's teaching fragmented, his community split into sects, with political and religious authorities consistently manipulating Islam to serve a personal agenda and/or conform to their limited understanding of the truth. Fortunately for Islam and the world, great spiritual masters have, in every generation, uncovered the hidden diamond of what Ibn Arabi termed the true religion of divine love within the Quran and Sunnah by virtue of their illumined hearts and minds. Gifted with profound understanding and vision, such elevated souls, some of whom were destined to counsel and guide enlightened rulers, while others chose a life divorced from the political and institutional structures of society, described many facets of the light-filled diamond known as Islam in order to help human beings recognize the truth by discovering and following the path to God, or Sharia. As the 9th century Sufi mystic Bayazid al-Bistami proclaimed, I thought that I had arrived at the very throne of God, and I said to it, O throne, they tell us that God rests upon thee. O Bayazid, replied the throne, we are told here that he dwells in a humble heart. Or as God himself is said to have decreed in a famous Hadith Qudsi, Heaven and earth cannot accommodate me, but the heart of my faithful servant easily does. Thus, wherever Muslim power spread during its long era of expansion, its adherents carried with them an admixture of human and divine elements, of ignorance and enlightenment, of iron fetters and gold dust, which could either bind or liberate human beings, depending on which understanding of Islam they embraced.
The quality of the Quran as a transformative power, a totally transformative power, is what gave Muslims the sustained impact globally. When we have the first explosion of Muslim conquest and Muslim expansion, that was not the golden age. The golden age was not the age of conquest. The golden age was the age of learning and innovation and originality in thinking, to break away from the mold, to create new ways of relating to the world, new discoveries, new sciences, new arts, new culture. That was the golden age. So the expansion was a prelude. But what is it in that expansion that carried the seed? And the metaphor of the gold dust, the metaphor of the pure essence, because I think the point often is missed by those who think that Islam achieved a sort of global dominance by conquest. That is not true. There was the initial conquest, the push of the conquest, but to be sustained for 1,000 years, to be the basis of cycles of civilizations, of empires, of sciences, of philosophy. There have to be much more to it than just simply the military conquest. So the point is that those people had something that gave them an edge, a civilizational edge, but not because of their exceptional nature as people, but because of something that they had in their hearts and minds. And that thing is the confidence in God's promise that Islam is liberation, Islam is justice, Islam is peace. That was the power of the diamond of Islam. Now, that ability to be transformative could not have worked if it was the same everywhere, because human beings are different. And the people who became Muslims in sub-Saharan Africa are totally different from the people who became Muslims in the Indonesia. So the fact that gold dust mixed with the soil to transform the soil and mixed with the spirit of the people to transform their spirit. And it has to be original, it has to be specific, it has to be indigenous and legitimate everywhere to that place, to those people, or else it will not be transformative.